So you've landed an interview. Way to go! You have your foot in the door. So now you need to perform and communicate so that you can seal the deal. And you probably already know all of the basic interview advice like show up early, dress for success, and send a thank you note. But then how can you level up your skills to get a second interview from the employer? Well, today we're going to share 7 advanced tips that can take your interviewing skills to the next level. And be sure to stick around until the end where I'll share a bonus tip on how to use your first interview to set you up for success throughout the entire hiring process. All right, let's get started. Tip 1, in the research phase, make it your goal to know your audience. Now, it can be easy to gloss over the research stage of interview prep, but maybe you're just unsure of what to look for. Now, keep in mind the obvious goal of your research is to gain enough relevant information so that you seem well educated and up to speed with the company. But let's try to look at it in a different way. When researching, seek out information that helps you determine how you can best appeal to the company, job position, and the interviewer. For example, rather than just scanning over the history of the company or recent news releases, try to identify what problems does this company have and how can I present myself as the solution to these issues. And the same with the job description. This isn't just information on your potential daily duties, it's literally the answer key to the test. How can you emphasize that you have the qualities that are listed in the job description? Go beyond this and consider additional qualities you have that are critical to be successful in the role. The employer may not even know that they need these skills from a candidate until you explain why they're important. And at the very least, spend at least 30 minutes researching. You'll be amazed at how much information you can find in such a short amount of time. And what you discover may entice you to research even more. Finally, don't overlook the importance of researching your interviewer. Check out their professional social media profile to investigate whether you share any common history or values that you can reference. If you're speaking with a recruiter or a member of HR, keep an eye out for any references to behavioral-based interviewing within their bios. Now, this means that they may choose to focus on questions about your past behavior or ask for responses to hypothetical situations. Now, there's a whole strategy on how to succeed in behavioral interviews that we have another video on right here. Just remember that these types of questions require thought-provoking, prepared, and researched responses, so you may want to prepare for them in advance. Researching with the intent of learning how to appeal to your audience gives you the best chance of connecting with your interviewer. Plus, if you reference the knowledge that you've gained during this process, you prove that you're professional, prepared, and enthusiastic about the opportunity at hand. Now, before I move on, if you've watched this far, give us a like, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell. Tip 2, understand the fundamentals of body language. The words that we choose provide a fraction of the information that people look for during an interview. Your body language and the way that you carry yourself significantly contributes to the overall impression someone will make of you. It's truly valuable to learn and leverage the fundamentals of strategic body language, if not as valuable as your credentials and experience. Now, we have a whole video about this, which you can check out here, but here are 3 quick takeaways. Perfect your handshake. This is the only time you're likely to touch your interviewer, and it carries a lot of weight in how they perceive your confidence and professionalism. Try to match the strength of the interviewer's grip and otherwise default to a natural but firm handshake. Keep eye contact throughout and end the handshake after 2 seconds. Now, we know times are different than they used to be, and we can't necessarily do virtual handshakes, but we can find ways to interact with our interviewer and show our personality. When you log on for a virtual interview, be sure to call them by their name, project your voice with energy, and have a few topics in mind. An example of this may sound like, "Hey there, Sally. It's great to virtually meet you. Thanks for taking the time to speak with me today," all while smiling and connecting with your interviewer. If you have multiple people that you're speaking with, say hello, introduce yourself, and let the interviewers take the lead. Mirror your interviewer. As humans, we naturally trust people who behave similarly to us. So mirroring can help build rapport by intentionally creating a sense of sameness. And this could be as simple as seeing your interviewer tilting their head and you following suit right after. Now, tread carefully here because we can easily overdo this in a way that is clearly disingenuous. Take some time observing your interviewer's demeanor and then adopt it. Beyond gestures, you can aim to mirror your interviewer by considering their general behavior. Are they chatty, strictly business, soft-spoken? Whatever it is, try to match your energy level to theirs without being obvious, of course. Create an open posture. Show that you're attentive and engaged by keeping your arms uncrossed and leaning forward slightly at the hip, as if you're leaning into the conversation itself. And this all applies to virtual interviewing as well, with the additional note that since you're on screen, stillness is even more important. So try hard to avoid fidgeting, swaying in your seat, or touching your face. Tip 3, practice your personal pitch. One prompt that you can 100% count on being asked in an interview is tell me about yourself. And this is when you provide your professional elevator pitch. We have a lot to say on this topic, which you can learn about in this video here. But to quickly summarize, I recommend the following. Explain your history by starting with your present role. Where are you now? And this can include your current title, company, and primary contributions. Then explain your past. How did you get here? And where did your interest in this field come from? Finally, touch on your future. What future goals or ambitions do you bring to the role today? The present, past, future format allows for a seamless transition to discussing the role at hand. When talking about your past and present, focus on explaining your key accomplishments, not your daily duties. The goal is to seem like someone who is actively contributing to a company, not just following directions. And numbers or metrics are always helpful to make your impact concrete. Finally, tailor this pitch for every interview. Make sure that you're referencing your specific research about the company or role when discussing your interest. Tip 4, let the employer lead the conversation around salary. Always let the employer bring up salary first. And keep in mind that recruiters are trained to get you to reveal a target number. But ultimately, they already know how much budget is allocated for the role. If you're asked for a salary range in the early round, deflect the question back to the interviewer by saying something like, since I'm in the process of learning about the role, I'm continuing to evaluate my salary expectations. What salary have you set aside for the right candidate? If the recruiter for some reason encourages you to share first in an early interview, try to provide a wide enough range with the bottom number still being something that you would consider taking. Remember, the recruiter's goal is to see if you're within budget, not to set your actual offer salary. As you progress in the rounds, you can get more specific about what number you're seeking if the employer asks. But remember that negotiation doesn't actually begin unless you have an offer in hand. Once you have that offer, you move from being a replaceable candidate to their number one hire. You have the power. But until you have that offer, I recommend not discussing salary unless the employer discusses it first. For a full video on how to approach the topic of salary during the job interview process, check this out. Tip 5, refine your 2 whys. There are 2 key why questions that you should prepare for and keep in mind throughout the interview. First is, why should we hire you? And the second is, why do you want to work here? You may be asked these questions directly, or you may not, but these are the central issues that a potential employer is evaluating during the hiring process. Take some time to think both of these answers through until you can succinctly explain why you're the best candidate for the role and how this company ties into your long-term goals. If you can convince the employer of these things, you'll demonstrate that you're not only qualified, but you're also incredibly enthusiastic and motivated to produce great work. When it comes to the actual interview, look for ways to conclude your responses on other topics by tying into either why you're confident about your candidacy or why you're excited about the opportunity. This will provide impact to your statements and reinforce your message to the interviewer. For example, when asked, tell me about something you're proud of in your current role, there's a big difference between saying, I'm proud of the fact that I was able to increase sales by 50% this quarter, and I'm very proud of the fact that I was able to increase sales by 50% this quarter, and I'm excited by this role's goal of increasing sales by 80% in the next year. The challenge of that increased quota motivates me, and my past speaks to the fact that I'm capable and eager to rise to the occasion. See, tying in your whys creates big impact. Tip 6, get ready to answer the question that you're afraid of. Whether it's a possible weakness in your application or questions about salary, everybody has a topic that they're especially worried about encountering in an interview. And sometimes we may want to cross our fingers and hope that we won't be asked, or we might want to provide a slightly evasive response in the moment. But my advice here is to combat your anxiety by confronting it head on. Expect that you will be asked that question and prepare for it. For example, if you were let go from your last position, focus on preparing for that to be discussed and find a way to frame it in an honest but positive light. The goal here isn't to memorize an answer. It's to create a few mental bullet points that are going to help you confidently navigate the issue. And remember, you don't have to share all the personal details. You control the narrative. So if you're talking about a mistake that you made or a conflict that you had, focus on what you learned from the experience and how it's helped you grow as a professional. For a video that lists the top 10 trickiest interview questions, along with recommended strategies for responding to them, check this out. Tip 7, adapt your interview approach to the stage of hiring that you're in. The structure and focus of interviews change as the hiring process progresses. For example, first-round interviews are typically a screener call with a recruiter, while final interviews may be with a hiring manager or with a group of senior employees. Your approach should change accordingly. For example, in early interviews, whether it's a recruiter screener call or a short interview conducted by a member of HR, the interviewer aims to quickly narrow the pool of applicants. Basically, early interviewers are looking for reasons to eliminate. And for these interviews, closely study the job posting and confirm your qualification by aligning yourself to the description. Use the same language as the job posting when describing yourself. The recruiter may literally be checking yes or no next to each item, so try to be specific. Now, there's no need to provide long responses or much nuance here unless prompted. But here's a pro tip. Phone screens are interviews. Take screening calls seriously and come prepared to talk about why you want this specific role. Don't just say, I want to work for your company because of the great culture I hear about, or just talk about why you don't like your current position. Be prepared to discuss your experience in a concise way. As the hiring process progresses, the interviewer's goals change. At a certain point, it's clear that you can do the work and there's nothing wrong with your application. Instead, your interviewers are looking for a distinguishing reason to say yes to you instead of everyone else. So if you just stick to aligning yourself perfectly with the job description, you aren't really giving them a sense of why you're particularly special. At this stage, think critically about what uniquely makes you the best fit for the position and highlight that. Maybe you're going to add value in an area that they didn't even know they needed. Plus, at this point, it's typically a hiring manager that you're speaking with, meaning that you can get more technical and nuanced with your answers. Finally, as promised, here's a bonus tip that you can use to your advantage throughout the whole hiring process. Use the screener call to help shape your approach in future interviews. Remember, recruiters benefit if you get hired. So if they decide that you're a possible candidate, their goal in the screener call is to give you as much information as possible about what the hiring manager wants. This information contains the keys on how to present yourself moving forward. Take detailed notes on what the recruiter says and consider how you can implement that insight into future interviews. And if you don't feel like they shared much beyond what you already know, feel free to ask them things like, what does the hiring manager value most in an applicant? Or is there a part of my background that you feel would be particularly valued in this role? Try to get their perspective on what's most important to emphasize about yourself moving forward. All right, let's quickly review the top 7 tips to propel your interview skills. 1. In the research phase, make it your goal to know your audience. And once you understand them, figure out how to appeal to them. 2. Understand the fundamentals of body language. Perfect your handshake, mirror your interviewer, and create an open, engaged posture. 3. Practice your personal pitch. After you explain what you do now and how you got here, create a smooth transition by explaining how your future career goals align with this specific opportunity. 4. Let the employer lead the conversation around salary. Remember, until you have an offer in hand, negotiation can't happen. 5. Refine your 2 whys. Get clear on why you're the best person for the job and why you want to work for this company. Even if you aren't directly asked these questions, you can create impact to all of your responses by concluding in a way that touches on a why. 6. Get ready to answer the question that you're afraid of. To reduce anxiety and be fully prepared, assume that you will be asked that nerve-wracking interview question and prepare some mental bullet points. 7. Adapt your interview approach to the stage of hiring you're in. It's best to keep it succinct and directly tied to the job description in a screener call. As you advance, look for ways to distinguish yourself from the pack. And don't forget that bonus tip. Use the screener call to your advantage. Make it your goal to learn all you can about what the company and the hiring manager value so that you can tailor your personal pitch accordingly. If you found this helpful, please hit the like button down below and subscribe to our channel. For more interviewing tips, I recommend checking out this playlist. And for a video on 6 different ways to answer "Tell me about yourself," be sure to check this out. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.